Hi guys, and welcome back to another video from Stupid is the Norm, where we demonstrate how to become a millionaire in 10 years on minimum wage. And in this video I want to explain to you how it is that you can't save your way to £1,000,000 in 10 years. So first of all, let's look at the maths. How much would I have to save each month in order to amass £1,000,000 in 10 years? Well, we start with 10 years and the 12 months in a year. So if I times 10 by 12, I get 120. So I'll then take the 120, divide that into a million. That'll tell me how much I need to save each month. And that figure is £8,333 per month you'd have to save. And if you're earning £8,333, you'd have to save 100% of what you earn. But a lot of gurus tell you that what you should do is just skim off 10%. So you're fortunate enough to have a massive amount of money coming in each month, and that represented only 10% of it, then the 100% of it would be £83,333 a month you'd have to earn in order to skim off 10%, which is such a terrific amount of money that nobody would even bother trying. So how do we solve that problem? Well, we solve it by investing it and not just saving it. So there are a number of different investments you can make. You invest on the stock exchange, you invest in a business, or you invest in property. Let's assume you're not entrepreneurial by nature, and therefore your options are just stocks and shares or property. And let's look at stocks and shares first. And let's take the usual vehicle we use, which is a Vanguard stocks and shares ISA. So let's assume a growth rate, an annual growth rate of 10% over 10 years, which would be very unusual to get that 10% on average. And that's because 10 years isn't a long enough stretch in order to smooth out all the ups and downs. Some years you might get 15%, some years you might get 5%, some years you might get 10%. So I don't think 10 years is enough, but let's assume in a perfect world we're going to get 10% a year on our money every year over that 10 years. How much would we have to put in a month to amass £1,000,000? Well, that figure is £4,885 per month. Every month for 10 years, growing at 10% would kick out £1 million. And if once again that represented only 10% of your money, then that's how much you'd have to earn a month to do that. Or alternatively, you simply earn £4,885 and you invest 100% of it. Again, unlikely. But you can do it, and you can do it on minimum wage, because that's how I'm doing it. So how do I do it? Well, first of all, I work 60 hours a week. Normal working week is 40 hours, so I work 50% more than most average Joes. How do I do that? Because I start work at 5 o'clock in the morning. So if 9 to 5 is standard normal working hours, by the time the guy starts work at 9 o'clock, I've already done 4 hours, which gives me a half a day ahead of the average normal person. Now, I'm making good money, but I'm still on minimum wage, because if you take how much I earn and you divide it by the hours, it comes down to minimum wage. So how I explain it to people is, yes, I'm on minimum wage, but I have unlimited overtime in which I can work to boost my salary. So one of the first things you need to do is find an hourly paying job and then work as many hours as you possibly can at that job. The next step is you save as much as that money as you possibly can. I save around 60% of my earned income every month. And you keep on saving it until you have enough for a deposit on a property and to pay all the acquisition costs, which to me is about £22,000. Now, it took me 2 years working 363 days a year, 60 to 80 hours a week, in order to save my first 20,000. Actually, what was 20,000? Because I bought a property for 63,000. Now, those properties rent out now for around, after taking management fees and mortgage off, around £400 a month. So 400 times 12 is £4,800. So my acquisition costs were 20,000, but I'm getting 4,800 out, which is around about 25% return on my money. Not the 0% you're getting in the bank, and not the 10% we're trying to get on the stocks and shares. I'm getting 25%. And that doesn't include the growth in the property itself. Now, I said it took me 2 years to save for my first deposit, but of course it doesn't take that much time the second time, because I have £400 a month coming in from rent, less tax of course. So I save for the second property in a short amount of time. And then when I buy that property, I get an extra £400 a month comes in, which means the time between my second and third gets reduced even further. And right now, I have 3 houses with a value of close to £250,000. And should they grow 10% a year in value, then I'm making 25,000 in capital growth, and I'm getting around £1,200 a month income from those properties. So it took me 3 years to do that. I've got 7 years left to go in the project, and if the economy is good to us and luck is on my side, I aim to get to about 20 properties in the next 7 years, kicking out about £8,000 a month in rental income. Now, the whole point of making this video is to show that you need to get the biggest bang for your buck if you're going to do it in 10 years. Putting it in the bank won't work. Putting it in stocks and shares won't work. You have to get the biggest bang for your buck, which is 25% return on my cash on cash in terms of rent, and hopefully 10% growth in the value of the property itself. This is how the wealthy do it. They have to get their money working as hard as they do. This is how they do it. This is how they do it. I'm sorry to labour the point, but this is how they do it. Keeping your money in the bank won't work. You have to invest it. Now, some of you are watching this and say, look, I just can't physically work the 60 to 8 hours that is required. I can't do it, which normally means I'm not prepared to do it. But I don't want to finish on a low, so I'm going to finish on a high. You don't have to do it. You only have to do that if you need to do it in 10 years, as I have. And that's because I was stupid all my life, and I started at 57 and I was stuck. I need to do as fast as possible, so I give myself 10 years, which is retirement age for me. If you're younger than me watching this, you don't have to do it because you have more time. So here's how you do it. Let's say you're 18 years old. It really doesn't, but 18 years works. You need about 40 years in the stock market. You can start at 30, but you're going to have to work till you're at 70. You take 2 hours of your weekly wage, you invest it in a Vanguard ISA. It'll grow between 8 and 10% over that 40 years on average. You'll capture the growth of the stock market over those 40 years. So it's 2 hours of your weekly wage. Invest that every month up for those 40 years or for however long you can, and pretty much guaranteed you'll be a millionaire after that time. You need time in the market if you're going to do it that way. So there's an alternative way to do it if you're not prepared to put the work in, but you need the time. I don't have the time, so I didn't have a choice and I had to go into property. But it's working. Don't be stupid and don't be normal, guys.